All right, now we're live. We were live before, but that didn't work. So, I'll wait till a couple people come in. Let me know what's happening. For those watching this on the replay, if I decide to replay this, I wanted to have a conversation about gratitude. And the conversation came about because I was in a Facebook group. And hey there, Merzabek, how are you? Good to see you. Say hello if you're coming in. Yeah, I wanted to talk about gratitude. If you have other questions, that's great. We can talk about other things. But I just noticed in this Facebook group that everybody was so down. People were getting really, really upset, and and people come to a support group obviously for those reasons. Is that they're asking questions, and they that's why they're there. Is they want support, and they want to get some answers. But the questions were just seeming so down, and so people are just so upset, and so hey Brandon, awesome, love, thank you for loving the channel. That's awesome, glad to have you here. Yeah, just the things that people were speaking about were they're so upsetting, and people were so hurting. And so I was thinking about gratitude and how, people say or talk about a positive mindset, but one of the things that really, really helped me was practicing gratitude. And I have a couple videos that I've done on gratitude, and that practice of actually writing out what you're grateful for, even if it's I'm grateful to breathe, I'm grateful to walk, these things. I mean, you can make them bigger. But what I've done is in the past, especially when I get down, is to just think about the things that you are grateful for. And you have to get your mindset thinking about, the positive things rather than the negative. It's about what you do have rather than what you don't have. And I feel like in these times, that's a really important thing to remember, to remember the fact of what it is that you do have and what it is that you are able to do, and the things that are positive in your life versus the negative. And things happen based on how we feel about them and how we think about them, and we attract more of those things. And what happens is that when you're in the negative and you're thinking negative, you just attract more negativity. That's what happens. You attract more negativity. And so I think if we were taught to practice gratitude, and we teach our children to practice gratitude more, things would be very different. And teaching children to, it's not just focus on the positive, but it's really about understanding what is positive and understanding why you feel that way. So I often suggest is to start a gratitude journal, or use an app or something where you can focus on 3 things in a day that you are grateful for. And you wake up in the morning, you write down 3 things, and you say, I'm grateful for the fact that I woke up. Imagine if you're just grateful for the fact that you woke up. Well, some of those other things might not be as bad. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. I was thinking about it. It was kind of weighing a little heavy on me after, having or seeing some of these posts of people just really, really hurting. And so wanted to come on live and see, anybody has any questions. I'm happy to answer. If you have anything that you want to tackle, let's see. So Mike says, I'm from Connecticut. I have a 9-year-old, and I have an issue with him not paying attention in school, in church, etc. I don't want to put him on any meds. How do I develop an attention span in him? Well, the question I would ask Mike is, when he is interested in something, does he pay attention? So as an example, I don't know, whether he plays games or sports or something, is he engaged? And the reason I say that is that if he is not, if you never see him engaged and you never see him interested in anything, then that could be a deeper issue. But if you do, but he's not interested in school and he's not interested in church, etc., it's probably because it's not very interesting to him. It is boring to him, or it's not stimulating, or it's not that fun. And as a 9-year-old, they love to move around. They've got energy. They have different things. So I would see that he commented he has to be challenged. Yeah, I think you need to find out. I mean, if he is engaged in other things, then he's capable of it. It's just the fact that it's not that interesting. So part of it is like I know in school that's sometimes the teacher's fault, because there are some teachers that are much more engaging than others. At home or at church, I mean, I remember going to some religious things and it's like, it was just really, really boring for me. I didn't want to be there, and that goes for things now as an adult. I don't want to go there either. So I think Mike had asked if I make things challenging, that seems to work. Like add some sort of reward for getting him good grades. No, I would not give him any rewards. Rewarding him is probably the worst thing that you could do. If you watch my channel, I am not a fan of rewarding, especially for grades or things like that. Now, you can give him positive affirmation and say, hey, looks like you got that. But even that, you have to be very careful about how you talk to him. So it's important that he realizes that the positivity comes from him. So good grades, bad grades, whatever, that's up to him to decide. And so you have to have that conversation and saying, listen, I'm going to love you no matter what. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter whether he fails, he gets an A, it doesn't matter. You're going to love him no matter what. Now it's up to him to decide, does he want to be a good student? Does he want to learn? Does he want to do those things? And here's the thing that people get crazy about, and I have a lot of debate about, is that what happens if he doesn't want to? If he really is not interested in getting good grades? Tons of people have been, quote, successful and happy even with bad grades. I've really changed the way that I look at these things. And the reason being is, even for myself, is that I was always pushing myself to do more and pushing myself to get good grades and pushing myself to be successful and pushing myself to do this. And the end result was anxiety. It wasn't happiness. And so the concern I have for my children is that pushing them creates that same thing. Now, that has nothing to do with encouragement, positive affirmation, but the pressure to do well. Some people believe in that pressure. I personally don't. I want them to do well because they want to do well, not because I want them to do well. So I think part of it is finding things that will engage him. I know I'm kind of going in a wide circle here, but you want him to be motivated, or you want him to be motivated. You want him to be interested in church, but guess what? It might not be that interesting. And so I would have a conversation with him, and a real conversation, a mature conversation, saying, hey, listen, it seems like, church isn't that interesting to you. What is it that you think would be more interesting with church? Like, is there, maybe it's different aspects of church. Maybe he wants to read on his own and study it on his own, or even with school, like could the teacher do something? I mean, I know my kids will say that, or especially if they have different teachers, where they'll say, oh, this teacher is so good. They had us get up and get outside and do these things. And like, they're just much more engaging, versus a teacher who sits there and lectures is boring. And when you're 7 to 12 years old and all you want to do is move around and you have so much energy, it is boring. And I think it's part of it is our expectations of what, our children are supposed to be doing. So hopefully that helps. If you're joining us here, let me know. Oh, sorry, I'm hitting this. On Honor Bond says, hello, dad of 2-month-old. Sorry, my stuff gets off the screen. I say this every time. One question, how to train a newborn into the crib for sleeping. Me and my wife having a really difficult time. So there are different methods for sleep training, and I am not necessarily a proponent or endorser of any particular one. What I would suggest is look up the term sleep training on YouTube. And there's Ferber method where you can let them cry it out. There's other people that allow their child in the bed and they sleep with them. There's all kinds of things, and many different experts will have many different opinions on this. I can only tell you what worked for us. With our son, our first child. But so here's the caveat, is that what works for us doesn't necessarily work for everybody. And part of that is everyone has a different tolerance. The children's manners are a little bit different. But what worked for us was we let our child cry it out. Now, I say worked for us in the fact that he then, slept on his own. It was horribly painful for us as adults. I mean, there was a time where my child would cry for an hour, and I felt like a horrible parent. My wife and I were literally on the verge of tears because we didn't know what we were doing. And we finally tried a couple different things, and we would go in and soothe them, briefly, and then come out and then do that. So I would suggest that you have to try and do and look at a couple different methods. There's crying it out, there's going in and holding them, there's doing timed intervals, there's bringing them into your bed with them. It's really what you are comfortable with. So I don't want to say that there is one specific answer, because there isn't. We may have done one thing, but other people have found success in other things. Sleep with a newborn is I will say they also don't necessarily sleep right away. Some don't. But meanwhile, my wife and I think our son was really young, brand new. And we went on vacation, and a nurse came. A friend of the family had a nurse that they've worked with, and came and watched us while we were at a wedding, watched our child. And the nurse let him cry it out. And she was like, yeah, he was fine. He cried for 20 minutes and then went to sleep. And we had never let him cry at that point. So I think that was the thing, is like, it's so hard sometimes for ourselves. So hopefully that helps. Let me see if I can get some of these questions here. I know they're coming in. Mike said, second as old as 16 and learning to drive. Any tips? Oh, yeah, no, I'm not there yet with a 16-year-old. It's just, you have to teach your children about the responsibility of what it means. It's not just the technical aspects of driving anymore. It's really about what that means and the responsibility that they have when there's keys in their hands, about other people in the car, if drinking forbid, and how that affects and their responsibility. It's a lot of responsibility, and I think you have to have those serious conversations, and those would be the tips that I would say, rather than just like teaching them to drive. It's really giving them a clear understanding of what those responsibilities include, and what it means. So that would be the tip I would probably say. Sorry, they're coming in here. MG Grope says, how do you get over the fear of something happening to your children or yourself? Illness, injury, death. I get a lot of anxiety and hypochondria thinking about these kinds of things happening. I can admit I had many of the same fears. I don't know that I have any specific techniques. There are techniques about anxiety. Anxiety is, there's all different ways to cope with anxiety. If you're having severe things, I would say probably talk with a therapist. If you're having a ton of anxiety and it's disruptive to, your daily tasks and your daily day, that's important to get some help for that. But what I will say is, I was really fearful that something was going to happen to the child, and especially when they started walking, because we had wood floors, wood and stone. And I was just always so worried about something him falling back on his head or doing something. And I think what just happened was over time that, that worry became less. So as far as that, it's becoming more comfortable with various things. You try a little bit, whatever the anxiety is. Let's say it's like, you're worried someone's going to take them. Well, you have them close by and you do that. But if it's something it's really like consuming you, I may talk to a therapist, and somebody, there might be a little bit better. I don't have any real quick tips for that. Like I said, for me, I had those same fears, and they just sort of diminished a little more. They kind of went away when the child got a little older. What I will say is that I still have those fears for my children even as they are older. The fears just change. My daughter, I just went camping with my daughter, and she's like, okay, I'm going to go over there, and they go walking in the woods. Like, you still have that same fear, or it's a different fear, but it's like, okay, something could happen. And so you have to sort of talk to yourself and, try to realize that like the likelihood is very low. And but I don't know that the fear ever goes away. That's why I said if it's severe, try to maybe talk with somebody. I appreciate these questions though. Brandon is asking, you have a 2-month-old, and any tips on helping our boy to crawl? No, I mean put him down on the floor, and you can get them to reach for something, but they're going to do it at their own pace. You don't need to hurry anything. The only thing that you have concern with is like over a long period of time, if that happens and there's no progression, then you want to talk to your pediatrician. You want to talk and just make sure there's no developmental difficulties or anything, motor skills and things like that. But different babies do things at different times. I mean, my son and daughter, just totally different. When they crawled, when they walked, my daughter had no problem with one thing, where my son had a total problem, and then my son had a problem. I mean, it varies child to child. But as far as crawling, I don't think you need to push it. And you're probably pushing in the sense that you're excited for them to crawl, you're excited for them to walk, but let nature do its thing. Just enjoy the moment for them. Cameron, I'm 21 and I'm expecting my first baby. I'm super excited, but what's the biggest single advice you could give me? There's so many things. Provide the child unconditional love. I think that's a big one, and I just touched on when I first came on here, is you love your child no matter what. So in this sense, like, here where, somebody wants the child to get good grades, somebody wants the child to, succeed at something or be good at something or do something. You have to love your child no matter what, and there's a saying that a friend of ours said is, love the child you have, not the one you want. And I think unconditional love is it's the greatest thing that I think my parents, instilled in me, and I felt that way. I felt very secure. What that does is, as the child grows, no matter what they do, they know they're going to be loved. And there's security in that, there's comfort in that, there's happiness in that. And as they get older, like my children know, like even if they were to do something horrible, it's not going to change the fact that I love them. It's one of those things from a security standpoint. You don't want to ever question that your parents love you. And so that's probably one of the biggest single pieces of advice that I could give. I don't know. That's, people ask that question, but there's so many. Okay. Let's see. Shaw had asked, has a 4-month-old. This is interesting. I'll try to get to this. Let me see here. what was the scariest moment, if any, in being a father? If I look back, I mean, there's a couple safety things where, like, he fell. Our son, we have really steep wooden steps that go up to our second floor, and he actually, when he started crawling, we weren't looking. We had the gate was down, something, and he actually fell down the stairs. That was very scary. Most of it has to do with like injury stuff, but I'll tell you, one of the moments that was the most scary for me was we were at a Target and my son was walking around and we were walking, literally took eyes off of him because I turned and went like down the aisle and he was right there. I turned and he was gone. No joke, it was like a couple of seconds. My wife was on the other side of the store. I turned, I looked, and my heart immediately just dropped. And I walked around, didn't see him, walked again, didn't see him, walked around. I started running around right where we were. And then I just looked, and I mean, it probably was about 30 seconds. I don't know. It could have been longer, but I was looking all around the store. I looked over near the exit because we were sort of close by, and he was walking out towards that way. And somebody was right there and was like, hey, like, luckily, I ran as fast as I could and grabbed him. And I'll tell you, to this day, my kids are now 12 and 10. That was one of the scariest things. Had a couple scary moments. Also, he fell in a pool. Same thing. Take your eyes off for a second. We were at a neighbor's house. Take your eyes off, and he knew not to go near the pool, and there was no fence. It didn't matter as a small baby that's just walking or toddler. And we turned. He fell into the water, face first, and and it takes a split second to realize what's going on. Somebody screams, and you run and jump in. So there are these moments as parents that are just, and you avoid so many of them, by being careful. And, the truth is that you can't eliminate everything. You can't eliminate all the scary moments. You try to keep them close, but the fact is now that they get older, mine want to go out with their friends or go around the street. They have scooters or they have bicycles or they have whatever. And, you can't watch them 24/7 anymore. And so you have to teach them to be careful, and to be mindful of that stuff. So, but as that other question came in, it's still scary. Shaw's name is John. Hey, Shaw. Sorry about that. It came through. Jorge, how can I be more patient with my son? This is an awesome question because I deal with this all the time. By the way, if you have a toddler or, over a year old, and it's not that I wouldn't include you as well, but I now have a course that if you really want to get deep and you really want to invest in yourself, invest in fatherhood, I am doing an 8-week live course. You'll have access to it actually for the rest of your life. It's a lifetime access. Also weekly Q&A and private discussion group and all this. If you are interested, email me at info@daduniversity.com and just say you're interested in talking about the course. It covers these things like patience and gratitude and discipline and communication and all of these things. It's basically like almost all of my material condensed into these weeks. And then of course getting all your questions answered, and you can come back at any time and do that. And so it is cheaper than therapy. It is cheaper than divorce. It is an investment. We'll talk about that, but we talk about your relationship. We talk about how you approach things and the mindset. And I'm just really, really excited about this course because I've been working on this. Again, just email me info@daduniversity.com and let me know that you're interested. And so, but patience, let's get back to that for Jorge. So patience is something that doesn't happen overnight. This is something you have to practice, and I practice patience all the time. And there's a couple things that I do. The first thing, especially with a child, is that I realize that my child is not out to get me, and so I try not to take things personally, because that flips my patience really quick. So first of all, just know that they're not out to get you, especially if you have like a baby or a toddler or whatever. As they get a little bit older, maybe they try to get you a little bit, but they're trying to push your buttons. But a toddler really doesn't understand what they're doing. They're just trying to get attention. They have no idea that, like, they're not trying to manipulate you and all these things that you think. They're really just trying to live their life. And so doing that of not taking it personally is a really big deal, and it makes you feel a lot better. And this is the same thing even with our spouse or whatever. Spouse can come home and be upset or yell or do something, and you're like, normally you'd react that same way and you'd lose your patience, but instead you have to realize, like, that's their own situation. So you can't take it personally. And it's the same thing with a toddler. If a toddler is screaming and whining, they just want something, and they've learned that screaming and whining gets attention. It may not be the attention that you want to give them, but they still get your attention. I mean, that's the whole point of it. And so part of managing your patience is realizing why they're doing what they're doing. And that's what all my videos and so much of it is about. It's like understanding these situations. When a toddler is throwing a tantrum, they throw a tantrum because it works. They may not get the cookie, they may not get the thing that they're trying to get, but it gets your attention. And so that negative attention is what they want. So you can also ignore them, and we do that where we say, hey, I'll talk with you when you're done screaming or when you are done having your tantrum. The other thing with patience is just putting yourself in the other person's place, and patience is sometimes attached to empathy, and that's what empathy is putting yourself in the place of your significant other or your toddler or your child in whatever thing. And so, like, I get my patience tested all the time, and so what'll happen is like, let's say, let's just say my son asks for something and they keep asking for it and whatever. I think about it, and all of a sudden, like, in a normal response, I'd get really upset. I'd be like, would you stop asking me? If I put myself in the place of my child just is really eager to do something, and their brain is sort of one channel of like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, and I'm going to keep asking until I get it. So what I'll do is I'll think about that for a second and say, you know what, let me think about this from his perspective. And then I might say calmly, you know what, I understand this is important to you. I will be done with what I'm doing in 30 minutes. Can we talk about it then? And almost all the time, that works. It may take a couple times to get them used to that. Now, the key is that after that 30 minutes, you have to do what you say. You can't push them off again. You can't do whatever. If you say something, you have to do it. So that's a very important thing too. And so my kids just know. And if I said, like last night, my son needed some computer thing, or actually yesterday, and I said, listen, I'm going to be working, and then I have to do this. Let's do it. Let's do it tonight. I'll be able to do it tonight. Now, if I bumped him off and I just said, hey, we're not going to be able to do it, that wouldn't be very cool. So I had to do it. I was already tired. I had other things I needed to do, but I said I was going to do it. And so we did it. And he actually came in to me afterwards and said, hey, thank you very much. I really appreciate you helping me with that. And so that helps. So for me, patience, the other thing too with patience is understanding the physical aspect of it. Like, I think for many people, at least for me, I can feel my heart rate. I start to breathe a little heavier. I may even get a little bit sweaty when my patience is being tested. And I can feel that sort of coming. And for me, it's like heavy in the chest. It's this anxiety kind of feeling. And so what I will do is I've learned just through time of like, when I feel that feeling, I catch myself and I feel like literally talking to myself like, okay, I'm feeling that right now. And I talk to myself and just say, hey, you know what? I can feel that I'm losing my patience. Got to take a deep breath. I got to calm down. Like, this isn't worth it. Like, am I really getting upset over this situation for nothing? So that's one of the other things is understanding your own personal triggers so that it doesn't even get to that level. And then another thing is expectations. You know, you have to really put yourself in check about what are your expectations at any given time for a situation that you end up losing your patience. You know, and realize, like, when are you losing your patience? Are you losing your patience when your children are, you know, going to sleep? Because I know I do. Are you doing it when, you know, they're just not listening in some capacity? That when you start to understand when you lose your patience, when why, you can begin to reframe it a little bit. And I think, you know, that's sort of helpful for me. So hopefully that helps. Oh, wow, they're coming through here. Maddie Boy says, have twins 7-month-olds who think grabbing handfuls of our hair is hilarious. How do you correct that behavior when they can't speak or understand words? So you show them. So what you can do is actually, you can actually put their hand in your head, put their hand in your hair and say no, and then go like this and put their hand and do it and make it soft. And you say soft, soft. My mother was the one who actually showed me that, and it worked amazing because my son went through a little phase of hitting when he was really little and biting. And so we did those same things is we would say no, you know, no biting or no hitting, but they really don't understand the no. I mean, they kind of understand the no part, but what we would do is show them what they can do. And so you actually just taking their hand and put it really soft and do it soft and say soft, soft. No, you know, say you're still saying the word hitting, but and I might even be more inclined to don't even say no hitting, just say soft or say touch or say something and then just do it soft, you know, like this. And they'll start to see that behavior. You know, what happens is that we correct behavior often by saying no and then yelling at them and talking about what that behavior is. But what we need to do is show them the behavior that you want to see. So if they're biting, same thing. You say no, and then you show them maybe kissing. You know, you show them kissing your hand instead of biting your hand, and you just say kiss, no bite, kiss. You know, and you repeat that over and over and over again. You know, it's not going to happen right away, but that is something that you can do. And that goes for all kinds of things. You show them and tell them what it is that you want them to do instead of what not to do. So I think that's the best way. Simon, hello. Glad that trying to just get some people in here. Salty Beard, any tips on teaching and instill my daughter's self-worth and respect? She's only 1. So yes, don't say that you are proud of her. Never say that you're proud. I have a video on this saying don't say that you're proud. Instead, you say you should be proud of yourself. So when she crawls or walks or goes on a jungle gym or does something, instead of saying, I'm so proud of you, or, you know, whatever, yay, you say, you did it. You should be so proud of yourself. Everything is geared towards them. What we want is, and that's a good video if you go and look for it on the YouTube channel. It's Stop Saying You're Proud. It's about them feeling good inside, you know. And so as parents, we want them to know that we are proud of them, and you know that for whatever reason we want them to know that. But that's not what helps them, because then they're looking for outside approval. You know, it's the same reason why older kids are looking, you know, to social media for likes and comments and all that. It's like because they don't feel good about themselves and who they are. So the way that we fill that up is by telling them and showing them that they are the ones that accomplished it. It's like if they got a good grade. If they get a good grade in school, you don't say, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you, or oh, Instead you say, you got those grades. What did you do to get that? You must have worked really hard, or you did that, or tell me how did you get that A? What did you do to get that? And children say, well, I worked really hard, or I studied, or I listened, and what we're doing is getting them to affirm that they are the ones who did it. It doesn't matter what I think. For my kids, I'm loving them unconditionally. It doesn't matter what I think. And if you feel like it's important for them, I mean, they know that I love. I've asked them that question actually, and they say, yes, of course, we know that you love us and that you are proud of us. But I don't say that. I don't say those words. My whole purpose is in building them up that they did it. It doesn't matter what I think, because what happens when I'm not there or social media is not there? Sorry, I keep looking in different places. What happens when nobody's there to tell them how wonderful they are? It's the same thing I say with with little girls saying that they're so pretty. Oh, you're so beautiful and you're so pretty. And I've got some of that too. There's a video on how to raise girls or what to not say to little girls, and those are really important videos too. So look up some of those past videos, because there's just so many different things that should be said and should not be said. So hey Devin, awesome. Glad you've been watching him. Your girlfriend's pregnant. Congratulations. So Mike, you said, when I'm over at my friend's house, they are very quick to yell aggressively and threaten their kids with the belt. Is it my place to say they're a bit too heavy-handed? Probably not if you want to remain friends with them. But I can tell you that we've stopped going over to people's houses because of how they discipline and choose to deal with their kids. I've just decided that, if it's not in line with what I believe, we can still be friends, but I'm probably not going to expose my kids to it. Probably not going to enjoy being around them. When you are alone and you have that ability, or you have that kind of friendship with your friends, this is my experience, is that somebody who's doing that probably doesn't give a rip what you think. And because I'm a absolute believer in never hitting your children, and so I think it's absolutely the wrong way to do it. I don't believe there's ever a reason to hit a child, and you guys, anybody can argue till they want to argue, and no behavior specialist, parenting expert for 30, 50, whatever years has ever said that, yeah, that's a good idea. Never. It's just not. And so people will say, well, that's how I was doing it, and I was raised great. And so I'm guessing that, if you want to risk the friendship, then probably, or if you have that ability to talk with the person, I would put it as a question, and just say, hey, I've been, studying different things, whatever, and what is it that you feel like it's important, to do that? You have to be careful that you're accusing them. But the truth is over time, if that happened, and I just wouldn't be around them. That wouldn't be somebody that I want to, be around with my kids and family. And, if they're doing that, it's just not within my circle, if you will. Now I see things all the time, especially being part of Dad University and such. I go camping with my kids. I see at school. I see all kinds of things that I don't quote agree with, or it's not the way that I would handle it. But in most cases, those people aren't looking for advice. If anything, if I have a conversation with them, I end up, and they then know some of the things, they know what I do, and they have a question, that I'll be happy to talk with them. But in most cases, most people don't want to hear it, unless they're asking for, advice. They don't want to hear it, and they're not open to advice. They're not open to listening to that. And so, you got to gauge it with, your friend and see if that's something that you want to be around. And personally, I would choose not to, but, hey, Brayton. Yeah, I understand you are scared. You're 16. You know, that is, that's tough. I have a teenage pregnancy video I would suggest. That might be a good one. Yeah, so Ruchi, I have a video. So Ruchi says, my 2 years and 4 months old son, he's so irritated nowadays. He keeps whining and hitting us every time. He's very active, very bored. Yes. So it's kind of like a dog on a treadmill. Like they need to be run, they need activity. I have a video about tantrums, and what happens is that your child is acting like that, and I talked about this earlier if you weren't on. Your child is acting like that because it works. And the reason it works is because you're giving him the attention. So if he's hitting and whatever, and then you say no and you grab his arm or whatever, like that's all attention. So I talk about how to avoid that. And there's a bunch of different, ways to do that. And so I would suggest that video. But by and large, the overarching thing is he's acting that way because it works. And so when you reframe it all and the child realizes that, going crazy and doing that stuff is not going to work. And by work, I mean getting your attention. Because if you're getting upset, you're putting him in the corner and you're spanking or you're doing whatever, it doesn't matter. None of that's going to work. He's still getting the response. He's getting a negative response, but he's still getting the response from you that he wants. So you have to change that. And the way that you change that is by reframing, how you deal with him and how you communicate. And there are some ways to know, like before that even happens, that, how you should talk with him and do that. And so there's all kinds of techniques of like redirecting the behavior, listening to him and giving them small instruction. But I'd also, he's bored. He probably does need to go outside or run, or if you have some place, a park, kids need to get rid of some of that energy, especially if now with quarantine and stuff and they're stuck inside, even if you can just go for a walk, maybe, those would be important things to do, just so that they can get out. They need to get out. And, even at the school, that's what's so tough about this is the kids had recess, And so now when my kids have a time where it's recess, they go out, they run around, they do stuff. They need that. And so I think that's probably the same, but I would check out that video on that just to make sure, you're covering everything. Yeah, I think it's Ummer. Anything you can do to produce more breast milk. I am not a lactation specialist. It's funny, and the reason I say that is my wife was having difficulty breastfeeding, and I tried to provide her some advice at the time, and she looked at me and said, "Well, now you're our lactation consultant as well." I would. There's so many different factors of a woman relaxing and her body's production and stuff, and that is not something that I am an expert in. I would say talk with her OBGYN or the pediatrician. Talk with the doctor about that, or a lactation specialist. There are people, whether it's online or groups, there's actually support groups that you can go to online that have those kinds of answers that might help a little bit more. But that's not an area for me. I pretended to be a specialist to my wife, and she didn't like that. So I'll refrain from being the lactation consultant online. But hey, I appreciate you guys. If you have questions, just let me say hello to some people here. You guys have some great questions. Let me know where you're from too. It's always interesting to see. It's interesting to see where people are from and the different areas. Simon, you just asked a good question. Let me get to that. you've taken 3 months off from work to help at home and bond with our new baby. I feel that going back to work will lose that connection. No, you won't. In fact, the first 3 months, I didn't have any connection with my first child, anyways. I, you know, because I was working, I didn't have even the connection. But it eventually, it's just about time. You know, when you come home or you do that, you know, I mean, you might feel something. You might feel a little bit of loss because you're not spending as much time. But you know, that's what you do in the morning or evening if you can, and then on weekends or whenever it is that you're not working, you know, and you just spend that quality time. You know, the quality time is more important than the quantity of time. So even when you're spending a lot of time sometimes with, like, you're still doing other things and you're getting stuff done. And you know, my kids even commented when they got a little bit older of like all we're doing is going on errands with you and doing stuff. Like, it's not quality time, you know. And that's something that's very true. It's like, that's not interaction. And so yeah, I think you might feel a little bit of the loss, but you know, the child, it sounds like, you know, if you took the month off to bond, you'll be okay. You just want to continue to spend that quality time with the child, and you know, make the effort to be there and to be with them. And you know, affection is a big thing when they're young too. Just making sure, you know, as dads, we often, or sometimes, we don't provide as much affection. I think that's a really important thing to do. And so, you know, giving them hugs and kisses and doing bath time. And we used to even do, you know, massage. My wife still does massage to my kids. You know, that touch is really, really important, and they feel very close, you know, with that. So, you know, hopefully, I think you'll be fine. You'll be okay. Thank you guys. Everyone's so cool about the comments and such. Let's see. Oh, from Florida, you got Australia, Southern Cal. Anthony, where in Southern Cal? I was born and raised in Southern Cal. Let's see. Croatia. All right. Franco. What would be the best way to approach a little girl? Expecting a baby girl. What's the best way to approach a little girl? What is really important in your opinion to learn? So I have a couple videos on that. I'd probably say that's the best because there's so many things. You know, one of the things I'd keep in mind too is, you know, we often treat the boys and girls differently, but when they're babies and toddlers and such, there isn't a ton. There's not a good reason to be different, but we are. You know, with girls, and this is science. We actually, I mean, or studies have proven this, is that, you know, we are rougher and tougher with boys. We, you know, have a tendency more to wrestle or be physical, whereas with girls we'll be more sort of like verbal and emotional, and that's just because we think that that's how it should be. But it shouldn't be, and that's what I talk about in those videos about, you know, things to do when you have a girl, or you know, things to avoid as well. But one of the things is just don't limit her. You know, like, she can do everything that the boys can do. You know, you don't treat her much different. There are some physical differences, of course, like, you know, the direction that you're wiping. You know, you make sure you wipe from front to back. You know, when you have a girl, that's important. You know, so the changing of the diaper is a little different, but you know, you learn that pretty quickly. But you know, by and large, there's not a ton different. I think the physicalness is very important. You know, and that was something I consciously did with my daughter. And I mean, my daughter grew up in being strong and assertive and such, because we really didn't treat it that way. Like, oh, you're a girl and you do this, and you're a boy and you do this. So that would be one thing I would say, is try not to treat her any differently than if you had a boy. You know, don't even think about it that way. As she gets a lot older, but you have years to worry about that, so don't worry about that yet. Ruchi from India, right on, living in Norway. Birmingham, England, all right. Anthony, I grew up in Orange County. I was actually from the Orange County area, went out to undergrad in Arizona for school, and then came back to San Diego for graduate school, and then have stayed here ever since. And I don't think I'm going anywhere. It's really the land of rainbows and unicorns here, and in San Diego, and we have a pretty good thing going. So I don't have any. Granted, everyone's talking about politics in California and all that, but still, I think it's a great place here, and my kids love it. My wife loves it. I love it. We've got the beach. We're close to snow if we need to. We've created a pretty good situation here, and so. But nowadays you can work from wherever. So, if you guys have any more questions, let me know. Grant, going in Thursday for inducing our first baby. The question is, should I look? That is an individual decision. I can tell you, so my wife had a C-section, and she is a nurse, and so we had, quote, special privileges. It was actually her boss delivered the baby. And I can tell you I probably saw more than I needed to see. Like, for me, I didn't need to see all that. Just we had a little bit more access. I was able to see like the actual process if I wanted to, but I didn't want to. That for me is not, I even have pictures, but my wife is glad. I mean, the whole reason I did it is my wife wanted the pictures. She's a nurse. She that's interesting to her. She was a labor and delivery nurse at the time, and then did women's work. And so, for her, at the time, it was really important. And so I was taking photos, but I didn't want to miss it, yet I didn't want to see it. That for me, it's not important. But for many, it's totally an individual thing. If you want to see all that stuff, up to you. You got to make that call. So quick glances. Yeah, the only reason that you would, I can see someone evaluating it saying, well, I don't want to think that I missed it. But, if you're in the room, you're not missing anything. Yes, seeing it is an experience. But for some people, they want to see that. For other people, they don't want to see it because they don't want to see all of everything coming out. And that's an area they think of in a different way. It's just everyone's different. Everyone's different. And for some men, that's uncomfortable. For me, it wasn't that. For me, I'm not a fan of like blood and guts and other stuff. Like there was no reason for me to see all that. Like, it's just not something like, whereas my wife, like if somebody got cut and was bleeding and it doesn't faze her at all. She's a nurse, whereas for me, like, I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't need to see that. Yes, Salty says, I didn't have a choice to look or not. I was a foot away holding my wife's legs. Yeah, for some people that might be the case. It depends maybe where you are. Yeah, Franco. Yeah, no, I agree. It's this is kind of why I created this channel. It was what I would have wanted when I was going through the pregnancy and through that process. It's something where as men we don't talk about a lot of this stuff, and I think we need to, and a lot of what I do, if you follow the videos and you've been on the channel, and please make sure you subscribe, to the channel. I haven't been making the new videos as much, and my reason for that is I've been focused on this course that I've created. So, I mentioned it before. If you're interested in that, email me, info@daduniversity.com. I've created this course that I'm really, really proud of, and that's really taken up my time. And so that's why I haven't created these new videos. Going on live is a lot actually easier and time-wise, because you may not know, but if I ever did a behind the scenes, creating a video is a lot of work, because I don't just like do it all off the cuff. I think about and write about what I'm going to do beforehand. We have to edit the video, and we do all these things, and it's a lot of work. And that time is just, I can only do so many things, at once, as you guys know. And so that's been the reason for the hiatus, if you will, of content. It's going to come back once I've launched this course. The initial course that I'm doing is live with me for 8 weeks. But then after that, it's going to be like sort of it's recorded and you can do it at your own pace and you could do it on yourself. And so it won't require as much of my like weekly time. So I'll be able to do some more videos, but that'll be cool. But if you do want to get in on this course, let me know. I definitely feel like it's going to change some people, and that's the goal, is the transformation. That's the whole point here is, when you guys come online, you see something, or whether you watch it or you're talking about it, and then you say, wow, that really impacted me. That's what I want to do, and that's what I want to hear. And so it is great when you guys share those stories, that you really enjoyed the videos, because that's the purpose that I do it. That's the whole reason for doing all this stuff is, it's really rewarding. It's really rewarding to do that. I get a lot out of it. People say, oh, I'm just doing this for everybody. And yes, I love to help people. But intrinsically, the reason is because it just feels really good. I mean, when somebody emails me and responds and provides comments and does that, it's like, it's great. It's a really good feeling to know that people are being helped and people are getting stuff out of it. So that's my gratitude. I actually am grateful that people are watching it and subscribing and enjoying the material. And there's never a shortage of new dads. It seems like it just keeps coming. And with quarantine, it feels like it's growing. It feels like there's more people having children. So I think that there's not a lot of things to do. So having children is one of the things that's going to come out of the quarantine babies. As they will. So I just have a couple minutes here. I've got to get going to dinner. Wow, I can't believe the time. This has been fun, and it went quick. If you got any final questions, oh, here we go. Jason asked, first kid coming in March with work. I'm not able to take any maternity leave. Any tips on how to be there for our family as much as possible? Yeah, leading up to it, you're just be supportive, be empathetic, and you have to support your spouse or mom, whatever, wife, girlfriend, as much as possible, and just make sure that you are present. So if you're working, that's okay. A lot of people feel guilty and such, but if you're not able to and you can't take off, then you got to do what you got to do. And what I would suggest is just making sure that you are present when you are off work. Try to be there, try to spend the time, give her a break. Especially if she's staying home and she's doing it, allow her own time to go like sort of recharge, whether it's just sleeping or do what she needs to do. Take the baby by yourself and do that and enjoy that time. In fact, that was something my wife did, which I appreciated, was she would actually leave on purpose and just say, nope, you know what, I'm going to go out for a couple hours. And there was kind of twofold for that. One is that she needed a break. But the second was she wanted me to have that alone time with the child, and that's where you bond. It's, when you're both there, it's great, sure. But when you get that time by yourself, that's where you really begin to bond, because you're sort of forced, to interact, and you're forced to entertain, and you're forced to be affectionate and feed and do all the changing and do all the things. And so that's the other thing I'd say is just take some alone time, and whether that's on the weekends or depending on your work schedule, it's really worth it. So it's okay that you can't do it. Don't that's fine. You'll be supportive during the times where you can't be there, or when you can be there, I should say. Last question, Franco. What do you think of having a cat while a baby is so little? Any experience? I don't. We don't have cats or dogs. I grew up with dogs. We have guinea pigs now. My children have, or my daughter has. I don't know. I mean, some I think you have to know the temper of the cat or the dog or whatever it is. It's not an area of expertise for me, but you probably know. But pets can be have different responses. Some are wonderful with children, while others are not. And I think you only know that best. That's probably you know I would put that on like a message board or ask other friends or such. But I don't have personally any experience with that. But with that, sorry that I can't be more help. Let me know, what you guys think. Some comments. Give it a thumbs up. This video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll try to pop on again, soon and answer some more questions. But I appreciate you guys. This is going to be a great ride. If you're going through stuff and you're whether you're pregnant or you just have your child, just know that it is an awesome ride. It takes work. But that's why I'm doing this channel, is because it's something that it really fills you up, and it's all about you and your mindset, and you get to decide the type of dad that you want to be. It's your decision, so make it a good one. See you guys.